today I'm asking you that we should pause and think about how we can apply circular economy within our project setting. On the housekeeping for today, we have a dedicated question and answer, and we'll answer the questions as we go by. Please use the chat function to introduce yourself. I'll encourage you to ask questions, engage, and we'll answer them as we go. This webinar is going to be recorded, and we'll be sharing the links and the slides after the webinar. But lastly, I would like to draw your attention to our competition compliance policy. It's available on our website, but today we'll not be discussing anything commercial. But before I introduce you to the fantastic line of speakers that we have today, I'd like to use 20 seconds of your time to carry out a poll just to understand where each of you are within circular economy in your projects and in your services and wherever you're working. Thank you. Yes, we have some very interesting results. About 45% of you are involved in work addressing the circular economy. That's a good number. I'll just give a few more moments for the polls to come up, and I will share the results. So we can see that we have about, half of those who are attending today's webinar will are involved in circular economy. That's a good start. So in today's agenda, we're going to have the IMCA CEO of IMCA introduce us to IMCA's position on circular economy. We'll have circular funders, and they will talk to us about circular economy. And we'll have one of our members, Heerema Contractors, who will be giving us a case study. And we'll wrap up this session with a question and answer session. We will answer the questions as we go, but if there are any questions left, we'll have a dedicated session at the end to answer the questions. So I will now go through our fantastic line of speakers that we have today for this webinar. We have Iain, who is the CEO of IMCA. Iain has over 40 years of experience in the offshore marine contracting industry, with his earlier career in Brown & Root, where he engaged in engineering projects. He then moved to commercial strategy and regional leadership roles within Tier 1 contractors. Iain has worked with Subsea 7, McDermott, and Iain was previously a board member of IMCA and the past president. He has a BSc and an MBA degree in chartered engineering, and now he's the CEO of IMCA. We have Veerie, who works as the policy maker and facilitator for public-private partnerships with circular funders. You are going to hear about them during this webinar, and it serves as a hub and inspiration and matchmaker for transition to the circular economy. So Veerie will be taking us today on circular economy and some of the practices and policies that she's involved in. We'll have Daniël, who is from Heerema Contractors. They are one of our members. Daniël has spent a decade developing his skills at Heerema Contractor. He started as a structural engineer. His personal drive has always been to be a project engineer and to be involved in environment and sustainability initiative. So he's working a lot IMCA, developing some of the guidance documents, which we're going to talk to you about later on in this slide. So I will now hand over the slide to Iain Grainger to go through our position on this topic. Thank you, Iain, and over to you.
Thank you, Mary, for that introduction, and welcome to everyone who is dialing into to this important webinar. And it's the first of a series, I think, Mary. So I'm looking forward to following up on these. As Mary said, I started my career in the industry over 40 years ago, and when I started, safety was still evolving. But over those last 40 years, we've seen huge improvements in safety. So IMCA was formed 52 years ago, and our prime focus was on improving safety across the industry in marine contracting. But when I joined the board of IMCA in 2017, we did a strategic review. And in fact, we launched our first environmental sustainability committee back in 2017. So we started our journey as IMCA at least seven years ago. And that committee actively developed a code of practice. So in 2021, we released our first code of practice for environmental sustainability. And we actually issued a self-assessment tool where our members could analyze their own position in terms of sustainability and really, look for what they needed to work on and what they could do next to raise the whole bar. So I put the strategy together for IMCA in 2021, and we talked to all of our stakeholders, and we said that we needed to raise sustainability to the same level of safety in IMCA. So we rewrote our purpose, which was to enable the development of the world's marine energy resources. We always had safety, but we changed it and we included sustainability. So I think my vision over my time as CEO is to make sure that the S in sustainability is as large as the S has been in safety for the last 52 years in IMCA. So I said it's a journey, and when I joined again in the board in 2017 and we launched the committee, we only had a one part-time resource inside IMCA that was focused on sustainability. Today, I'm really pleased to say we have two dedicated resources just working on environmental sustainability. That's Mary, that you've seen, and Julia, who's sitting in the background, running the slides for us here. So now we have a full-time dedicated, and really that's our journey is evolving, and we are building our capability and our information. So IMCA can play a really important role in sustainability, and particularly, of course, in the circular economy as we move forward. So Julia, could you move forward to the next slide, please? So carrying on, as I said, we issued our code of practice back in 2021. Of course, this is a rapidly evolving part of our business, and we've issued lots of information notes. We've issued guidance. Recently, we did biodiversity and ballast water, for example, generally in sustainability. But it was recognised that we needed to work on the circular economy. We formed a work group back in 2023, and all of our work is heavily supported by our members, and those members volunteer. So we have a dedicated sustainability committee that meets regularly, but for special topics, we form work groups. And I'm pleased to say you can see here that DAME, Subsea 7, DOF, Technique, Deep Ocean, and Heerema and McDermott all came together to develop this specific document, which we launched in the end of 2023, which you'll see here is IMCA ES 003, Implementing Circular Economy Principles. So I thanks to everyone who's a volunteer in IMCA, and specifically these work group members who helped launch this document last year, which I'm sure many of you have read. And if you have not, please get it from our website. And if you have trouble, please contact Mary or Julia, and they will get this document for you. Of course, we are continue to evolve our documents, and we'll actually release the second version of our code of practice for environmental sustainability. So we're constantly updating those documents to reflect the latest regulations, the latest information, and the latest best practice that our members are implementing. And we'll hear some of that best practice from both Valerie and Daniel today. So if you could move forward, please, Julia, to the next slide. So really, my one call of action today is, of course, listen to the seminar, this webinar, take away and start to implement and get involved with IMCA. But we have a very special event coming up in December in Utrecht in the Netherlands, very easy to get to. And it is our annual Global Summit. We have the last one in 2018, but unfortunately, COVID caused us to pause those. So I'm really pleased to say that we have our first Global Summit coming up. We have a number of speakers on safety, on sustainability, and on people and talent, because I think that's another key area that we have to improve. We have to get the right people in the business, in the industry to move forward. But specifically for the audience today, we have a keynote speaker. We've got Dr. Sally Uren, who is from the Forum of the Future. She's the CEO of the Forum of the Future. She's a very sought-after speaker, so we're very lucky to manage to get Sally to come and give us a keynote address. And that will be followed by a panel discussion from our larger members, together with Sally, to discuss what they are doing to implement and improve environmental sustainability in their own businesses. So I really would ask you today, you can see the barcode on the right-hand side, the QR code. You can scan that, get direct access, register, or you can also go onto our website, and the link is there below in the slides, which will be shared after this presentation. So please, if you're really enthusiastic and want to know more about sustainability, what IMCA is doing and what you can do to implement these best practices in your business, please do sign up and come and join us in Utrecht in December. So with that, I really am going to hand over to Valerie and Daniel, and looking forward to hearing what the best practice is and what's being done today in the industry. Thank you, Mary.
Thank you, Iain, for that fantastic introduction of IMCA's position within the circular economy. We are doing a lot of work, as Iain said, within environment and sustainability and within our work groups. So if you're a member and you're interested to join in one of our work groups, we have circular economy, life below water, and supply chain. Please reach out to me and we will see how we can get you involved in the work that IMCA is doing. So we'll now move on with our presentations, and I'll hand over to circular funders to go through some principles within circular economy. Vela, I'm handing over to you now. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. I hope that the slides, does it work? Yes, no. Is it me that is changing it? Okay. Hi. So I'm Veerie Labeeuw from Circular Flanders, and I'm really happy to hear that so many organizations are already ambitious to implement circular principles, and also IMCA is also working on it. So the reason why is really important, and this slide from World Counts shows how important it is that we start acting and that we take actions into the circular economy. I don't get the slides. Yes. So it's the previous slide was on newsletters. So we see that a lot of information is already available, but that we see that there's a lot of scarcity already, but also price changes. So it's not only for an environmental reason that we should invest in circular economy, but also for economic reasons. This slide shows you that although a lot of energy involvement is, although many actions are already implemented on energy, we see that most energy-related action is on material. So the greenhouse gases is something that we can only tackle when we invest in our products and consumption pattern. The slides don't... Yes, okay. So Circular Flanders has an ambition to reduce the material footprint with 30% and to decouple the material footprint from consumption. So we cannot do this alone, so we do this in a public-private effort. Yes, a little word on Circular Flanders. Circular Flanders is a public-private partnership with the industry, but also civil society, different kinds of governments on environment and on economy, but also the investors are involved and research institutes. So it's this combination together with an operational team working on specific strategic agendas and levers that make it possible to go into action. The slides really... Yes, so these are the strategic agendas. So we were working on circular construction, chemistry, water loops, bioeconomy, food chain, and manufacturing. But to avoid that we are going into silos, we are also working on specific levers that tackle the barriers and challenges in a transversal way. One of those levers is circular procurement, and I would like to tell you a bit more about this. Yes, before one other lever, I don't know why the slides don't pass. Yes, so one other lever was also monitoring and research. And I'll share also some links. So if you are interested in knowing more about research, you can check this. But circular procurement, this is the process of a procurement, and what is different with a circular procurement towards a normal procurement is that you need the support of your colleagues, of your boss, but also that the beginning, the start of your process takes a bit longer, but then afterwards the result will be of a long-term effect. Yeah, I don't know why the slides. Yes, so this is one, improving the support base. You start with helping your colleagues to also believe in this ambition and to give them tools to change if necessary. If you are interested in this, we have a methodology that you can use. It's a workshop on behavioral change. And you can read all about it, and you can organize it as a team workshop. Because it helps you to see how people think about circular procurement and how they can be helped towards those circular criteria. Yeah, I'm sorry. The slides are really slow, or... Yes. So the second one is setting requirements. You can ask for example, 10 shares for the meeting room, but it's more important to ask what you really need. You need people to have a meeting. And if you just mention that and you don't explicit in 10 shares, perhaps you get this solution. Or you can even get this one and you don't need the shares. So if you want to look at the ambitions, circular ambitions, you can choose to reduce total amount of materials, reduce the amount of virgin inputs, but also look for criteria to extend the useful life or maximize usability of products and components. And in the future also to look how it will be recycled. So we have an ambition chart here that you can use. It's available in Dutch, English, German, Swedish, and French. And I want to show it. So the idea of this ambition chart was that for a procurer, it's not easy to assign a contract, and you can explain to the suppliers what are the ambitions and how they can answer to this. So we have several strategies, but the slide doesn't change. I don't know why. Yes, this is one. So I'll share the link also so you can use it. And the idea is that you choose one or two strategies according to an ambition, and then the supplier can use this to answer to this need. I have some examples, short examples, if the slide wants to change. Yes, so for example, if we want to reduce the total amount of materials, The first step, if you are a big company, a big organization, you might look at what is already available and what can be reused as a new form or in the same form. Another example is the use of product as a service. In this case, it's the city of Mechelen that is using light as a service. So you can work on repairability, on modular design, and it's a contract that helps the circular principles. Another example was on modularity that just passed away. For example, on mobile phones, that you can decide to choose a mobile phone that can be fixed and can be upgraded if necessary. So the next step is a market engagement. It is important to take enough time to go into discussion with the suppliers, to look for suppliers who can already deliver circular products and services, and to learn from them what is already possible. Can we perhaps organize a contract that the ambition in the first year is still small, but then in third year, for example, might be very much more ambitious. So that is possible if you go into contact with your suppliers. Yes, so these are examples on our website. I will share the link also in the chat, where for each of those product groups, we have some examples and some criteria that you can use and to put in your demands. On our website, circularprocurement.be, you find a lot of examples and studies, interesting studies or research that is done, and examples, guidance to help you. Yes, then really important and mostly forgotten is the evaluation of the offers and the contract management. It is important to see that what the suppliers promise in the beginning of a contract, that they also answer to this in the end. So you need to inform the internal clients so they really look into those details and they give you feedback if the contractor or the supplier doesn't answer to the needs. Then just one slide also on circular policy and tools. So we had several projects, and you can find some joint statement of demand where for furniture, for example, or professional clothing or electric vehicles charges, you find some criteria and possibilities already explained. And also on each pilot project from the project ProCirc, you can find also many examples because it's easier if you see an example to continue. Then a small word on circular construction. So this is the link. If you are looking at new infrastructure or new buildings, it is important to think about more than one life cycle. And that is often not the case yet. So it's important to think about how to make sure that it's changed afterwards, that you can change it when you get new needs. But also, if you build new, that you perhaps look into reuse of materials. This slide shows you that renovation still has less impact on the environment than new buildings. Although new buildings have a lot of energy changes, they have a lot of goals on energy, but it's still on the fact of environment, it's still more a bigger impact. Sorry. Yes, I also share some links because on our website on construction, you can find a lot of information, interesting studies, research, but also a LinkedIn group where you can ask your questions. If you have specific questions on procurement or on construction, you can ask it there. and then we can help, or other participants can help. Yeah, it doesn't work again. Yes, and then final slides on circular ports. This is a topic that we are working now on the last 2 years. And there's also a dedicated website and a chair in university. So if you are interested in a circular port monitor, you can find a lot of information also, and I've also put the links to it. There's studies, there are interesting publications that you can look at. And then the final slide is our secret ingredient is fun. Sorry for the problems with my slides, but I share all the information also in the chat. And if you have questions, I can answer them. Mary, I think you're still muted.
Vela, thank you for your interesting and insightful presentation. We've already had some questions coming out from the speakers regarding your presentation, but I think we all know that changes in circular economy and implementing these practices is a systemic thing. It needs to get people to change their behaviors. So Vela, I have one question for you, which has come from one of the delegates, and they are asking about the workshop on behavioral change, which you've mentioned. How can they get access to arrange for a workshop? So please, if you could answer on the chat function, that would be great. Thank you.
Well, we wrote the guidelines for this workshop. It's an easy guide that you can use yourself. Or if you really want a workshop for some companies together, then we can organize this also. But the guide is really easy with all the templates that you can print yourself. And if you read it and you have still questions, you can ask me. It's a workshop with smileys that is really interesting, and it delivers a lot of discussion amongst the colleagues. So it's ready to use.
Thank you, Vela. Thank you. So we are going to move on with the presentation in the interest of time. I am going to be handing over to Daniël, and Daniël is going to take us through a case study on one of their projects on how circular steel has been implemented. Thank you. I will now hand over to Daniël.
Thank you very much. Welcome. Thank you, Mary, for this introduction. Also, Ian and Veerle for the insightful presentation. Let's have a look if I can control the screen. Yes, I'll click with the arrows, it works. So I will present a short case study regarding circular use of steel at Heerema. But before I do that, I show you a short movie about the transition that we made as a company. So please enjoy it for the coming 2 minutes. 9.5 meters before time.
In the 1990s, Heerema marine contractors, like the entire offshore industry, underwent a major shift. Safety standards rose rapidly, and everyone contributed to reducing accidents and injuries to zero, a mission we are still working on. Today, we face the energy transition. Just as we have demonstrated with safety, we are equally committed to the energy transition and creating sustainable values. For Heerema Marine Contractors, sustainability is an integral part of our identity. Therefore, we act on 4 sustainability ambitions in all our work areas. When installing and removing energy infrastructures offshore, we emit greenhouse gas emissions, which is why we are committed to reducing these emissions with our net zero ambition. Our work takes place in the oceans. we contribute to improving marine life with our Healthy Oceans ambition. During our projects, we use materials. By eliminating waste and pollution in a circular way, we minimize our impact on the environment. All these efforts are not possible without our talented team, both on board and in the office. Therefore, caring for people is our ambition, which displays our social responsibility. Just as we have overcome safety challenges, we will also achieve these sustainability goals. We will continue to make the impossible possible offshore in a sustainable way.
But as Iain also mentioned, the offshore industry made a huge transition when it comes to safety. We're now facing the same path regarding sustainability. At Heerema, we have a dedicated sustainability strategy, which contains 4 pillars. Today we talk about circular Heerema, which has where we have 3 pillars, which are prevent, reuse, retain. And today we'll especially, the reuse part will be especially addressed. This is part of our total sustainability ambition and strategy. So let's start with some key figures when it comes to steel at Heerema. We're a contractor. We are used to practical things, and circular economy is often still a theoretical part. So let's make it practical. In 2023, we used 4,800 metric tons of construction steel, of which over 2,000 metric tons was new steel, virgin materials. We do a good job, but we still have we already have a reuse rate of 57%, and that's also what we will be presenting here. But you also realize that there's still a way to go, and that's also why the platform of IMCA is a good platform to learn and to cooperate, like we once did in safety. The emissions produced with the new steel of 4,000 metric tons, 4,900 metric tons, and the emissions prevented are bigger. So we have a positive impact. How do we do that? So most of our construction steel is being used in grillage and sea fastening, the steel that we use to transport or the offshore structures of our clients. So we moved from a linear approach to a circular approach, where the material, the steel, is not scrap, but it's the foundation of the next big project. We make the waste a kind of the food for the next big project, the tenders, but also the engineering, procurement, and equipment management. So let me walk you through the process. Over the years, we gathered a stock of steel, which you can see on this image, which is our which we list in our database. And for a long time, it was just laying there, waiting for reuse, and we did not have a clear vision on how to reuse it. So when new projects came up, we had a project event occurred. To facilitate the engineers on reusing and knowing what steel we had in stock, we created an online steel marketplace, which is a database containing all the steel. It also contains it has a link with our quality control, the dimensional control. Also, it takes into account which properties the steel has. So we really know what we have in stock, how to use it, and how we can reuse it again. Then the next part is actually remaking the existing parts. So in order to make this behavioral change happening, we have to make it easy, like we did in safety. That's also what we try to do here. So we separate the components within the grillage. So we separate the sea fastening from the beams and allow it as a new source for the next grillage. Thereafter, we construct the grillage. Could be at the yard, on the barge. But already here, you see the steel being in its second phase of life. So thereafter, we enter the use phase, where in the past, often the focus was on designing for a maximum unity check, so the maximum utilization of the material. In a circular approach, we are aiming for more robust designs, which makes them more fit for reuse instead of making them fit for purpose. Or basically, we change the purpose from one cycle to multiple cycles. And in the end, of course, after the project and the top side of jackets were installed successfully, well, after everything was installed successfully, we have to make it ready again for storing at and make it ready for reuse. So where are we now? As mentioned, we still have a way to go as a company, and I also think as industry. So we want to scale our impact and extend our horizon. Storage capacities are limited, so we are really assessing what to store, where to store it, for how long can we store it. It has to do with the life cycle costing. We cannot keep everything, just store everything and having it there if we don't reuse it. So we have to see a clear prospect for reuse. Also, the logistical setup is of interest. If we have a grillage used in the Gulf of Mexico and the next time we use it in Asia, is it worth transporting it all over the world? Or how could it be interesting to do it? Also, we have to consider the cost of remaking. So do we take apart the complete grillage or the beams, or do we just separate the sea fastening from the grillage? These are things that we take into account. Let me see. So a next step is what we look into is the value chain integration. As mentioned, the circular economy is not something we can do as a company on our own. It's also not something that we as marine contractors can do on our own. So we need to have horizontal and vertical integration. We need to, we want to enable inflow from the industry and from clients, but also limit the sector inflow. So actually, we want to have an inflow in a stock, but in the end, reduce the total amount of required steel for the future. So retain the steel where we can. In a case of outflow, we should be aware that recycling or scrapping the steel is actually the last resort instead of the easiest way to go. But still is, I believe, the common practice. So we could share the steel within the sector, perhaps, to decrease overall impact. It would be a new way of collaboration. But if we want to make an impact as a sector, this would be one of the solutions that we could work with. And we should focus more on circular design. So circular for reuse, making designs more robust and make them modular. Because if the barge, the steel of the barge, of the vessels can be there every time in every project again, why should the equipment that is on it be new every time? So reuse, remake, repurpose. And with that, we're looking for ways to magnify our positive change. Reuse the material, reduce emissions, and retain the value. This leads us to the circular Heerema ambition. As I mentioned, it consists of prevent, reuse, retain. We focus on sustainable procurement, circular design, measuring, reporting, creating data insights to educate and showcase what we do and where we should go, but also reusing and see how we can implement this in our daily practices, educate our people, focus on the resource management, circular use of slings. We focus on waste stream management. Where does our waste come? Where does it go? And how do we treat it as circular as possible? With that also, we look at the project demobilization. Should things be scrapped after every project, or should it, or can it have a second life? And as we've first, as contractors, enabled the energy, the offshore energy sector, now also we have circular decommissioning part, taking away all the oil and gas rigs that are at the end of their lifetime. So sustainability at Heerema, not because we have to, but because we care. We take care for the environment that we work in, carefully balancing people, planet, and profit. So if you want to know more, or you have any ideas to collaborate on circular economy or any other projects, please send me an email, check our website, and check our sustainability report, in which we showcase many of our projects that we have achieved in the last year. And well, let's see if there are some questions. I think there are.
Thank you, Daniel. There are indeed some questions for you and some interest on the setup of the steel marketplace. So are you ready for me to shoot the questions over?
Yes, bring it on.
Yeah, so Rachel is saying it's a very interesting concept, what you've just shared, and they are interested in learning more. The question is, what are some challenges you faced when setting up the steel marketplace, and how did you overcome them?
Yeah, well, I think one of the biggest challenges that we were facing was we had a theoretical solution, and we want to make it practical. So we had to see how we could gather the information about all the steel that was stored on the yard, how to sort that and store that in a way that our engineers could find the information that they need, and that they are aware of all the materials that are laying idle for reuse. And that system had to be user-friendly. It has to be has an update frequency. So preferably you want to have it live. But yeah, actually the way how we solved it was to collaborate with the team on the yard, collaborate with our procurement team regarding the fabrication scope, but also with our project managers. All the stakeholders basically that were involved have delivered their input. And well, actually this system was kicked off, the project was kicked off in 2018, and we're still developing it. So yeah, there are always points to improve, but I think the key ingredient is it is having fun, as Circular Flanders mentioned, but it's also collaboration. And I think becoming circular and circular economy is really about collaboration.
Thank you, Daniel. I think that word collaboration stands out clear and loud. It's something that it's an imperative for us to get on this journey on secularity. It's systemic, so we really need to work together. But Daniel, I still have some questions for you. I have questions for Vela, but I'm also looking at the time. How much, you have a question from Jake, perhaps I'll give this one. And Stick is saying it's a very interesting slide you've shared, and there's some financial aspects, but I can send that to you. Jake is asking, how much extra engineering did you have to do to reuse the steel, or are there grillage you spoke about not bearing safety criticality? Did you think about that? Because in his experience, he's always encountered engineering barriers in using such structures. So do you have any thoughts on that now?
Yeah, well, it really depends. A big part of the steel that we reuse, or massive steel girders that were once made for decommissioning projects, and they're very, very robust. So basically, they are load bearing and safety critical, but they're so big and over designed that actually the engineering is easier, because we can already prove that they can withstand a much higher load. So regarding the big steel, and it's also the biggest part that we use, we have a quite an optimal case. But if you want to improve our reuse rate, we also have to reuse smaller items, and there also the engineering, the additional engineering comes in, and we still have to find a balance or a framework till what point is it worth the effort to invest the extra time for reusing a certain piece of steel, because there is a balancing point. So but I'm happy to discuss, Jake. If you want to discuss more about this, then please reach out to me.
Okay. Thank you, Daniel. Thank you. In the interest of time, I will probably move to rounding off, but we have a few questions, and I will just check that we are on time on the webinar. But this brings us to the end of our webinar today. It was very interesting. I still have some questions here, but if you like further information on this webinar, please reach out to me. I am not sure about the time because I can't see the time in here. How are we doing for time, Helen? I have one or two questions for Veerie.
For me, it's okay.
Okay. So Veerie, there is a question for you regarding circular economy. I think Isabella is saying that thanking you for your presentation, but it's just going back to the basics and the principle. If you really want to start with circular economy, and some of our members are quite small suppliers, where do you exactly start? How do you begin this journey?
Well, I think the most important thing is that you start with a project that is not so difficult. So you start in finding colleagues or a boss that are interested in trying, and then do something that has a not so big impact in the beginning, but that you can show that it works and that you get people enthusiastic. For example, the example that I gave on the inventory, what is already in your organization? Do you have an inventory to share or reuse elements in your organization? Or do you get some examples, because many organizations already have examples? Can you communicate this to your communication service and use this in a newsletter, for example, to show that your organization is already starting to work? So it's really about trying to dare to start. And once you have started, you can ask for extra information. You can contact us or other organizations. I've just put a lot of links into the chat. I don't know if they are succeeded, but I think if you see the examples, then you know, oh, I can also do this, or I can try this. So this is most important. Just try and start.
Thank you, Veerie. And I think you mentioned just finding those low-hanging fruits, the things that are easy to start on, and then that motivates you to get on the journey. And just one last final question, Veerie. It has to do with waste, and they're asking about, I know waste is a big issue when it comes to circular economy, but in terms of what in your views do you think needs to be done to try and change this mentality of waste?
Well, the first thing is to see where the waste is coming from. If it's from products of your own or the things that you buy, then you can have an impact as a procurer to ask in your tender or request to minimize this waste. But also to change the products that you buy so you can reuse them afterwards and it doesn't become any waste. But it's also about a change in behavior and mindset. If you give a training to people just to know how to handle the waste, to take it up selectively so it can be recycled, that is also part. But the first step is really to avoid waste and to make sure that there's no waste created.
Thank you, Vela. Thank you to our speakers. Thank you to Daniël. Thank you to Vela for your time. Thank you, Iain, for supporting us on this webinar. Thank you all the delegates for making the time to be with us today. We want to hear from you. We are interested in getting your views about this topic, but also how IMCA as a trade association, how can we help you on this journey? So please fill out the feedback survey that will be coming to you. We want to hear from you. We want to hear your feedback. And thank you today. Have a good rest of the day. And thank you all. Bye-bye.